On today's episode, I had a great conversation, and really sometimes we get to tell somebody's whole story, right? A career path. And sometimes those stories stem from something that was kind of by chance. I really enjoyed this conversation. I enjoyed the story of this individual's career. And more importantly, what he's doing, the organization he's a part of, and how they serve our community. You guys all know what that is, but do you really? Let's see. Let's listen to this episode and find out.
Welcome to Gettin to Know the 570, brought to you by Conversion Works Media, a show that hosts special guests from in and around Northeast PA, sharing their stories, knowledge, and experiences in their work and personal lives. Because let's face it, doing business with locals feels good, but giving business to someone you know feels even better. And now here's your host, Frank Sepko.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Getting to Know the 570. Today, we are going to be talking to a local organization that, honestly, meant something to me when I was a kid. So this should be fun and kind of learning about where they're at today, what they're doing. It sounds like they've got a lot going on. With us today, we have Jeremy Popiel, who is the COO for the Greater Wyoming Valley Area YMCA, which basically encompasses all of Luzerne County. Now we're going to hear that from him, and he'll tell us all about what they've got going on, their locations. We're going to learn about programs, events. So should be pretty cool. Thanks for being here, Jeremy.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's sort of just dive right into it. YMCA, Wyoming Valley Area YMCA. So I think some of us are familiar with the particular locations, right? So some of us grew up in Pittston, some of us grew up in Wilkes-Barre, some of us are used to the ones that are right in our backyards, right? What does the Greater Wyoming Valley Area YMCA encompass?
So like you said, kind of in our intro here is, we encompass and serve all of Luzerne County now. That kind of came about over the last few years, really kind of dating back to the initial merger of the Pittston YMCA and the Wilkes-Barre YMCA back in 2019, 2020. And since then, it's just been one of those things that the association just continually saw opportunity to either repurpose or reopen or reserve communities across the county, and we've been going with it ever since. So like you said, and like I said, across the county, we have the Wilkes-Barre Y, the Pittston Y. We have satellite sites for child care centers as well. In Pittston Township, we have the Miracle Family Center. In 44, we have the Cashline Child Care Center as well. We also serve child care outside of Bear Creek Charter. And we also have the Camp Kresge site in Whitehaven. I'm still going. We have the newly acquired and recently opened Hazelton YMCA, which is currently serving 75 children in downtown Hazelton as a child care site. More to come with that one. And then most recently, we've entered into a merge agreement with the Freeland YMCA. So like I said, we are serving the entire county and just really trying to ingrain ourselves in the various communities and the various areas that we have across Northeast Pennsylvania and the Wyoming Valley.
So as it pertains to the YMCA as a whole, right? I think maybe there are some people who don't really know what it is, right? They've heard it their whole lives. They know that they know the logo. They know it's in their community, but they don't really know where it came from or what it's about. Could you give us any history there?
Sure. I mean, the YMCA initially started as a refuge for young men, originally starting in England and then eventually coming over to the U.S. It's really started in our area. In Pittston particularly, it started in 1880. I recently just had to do some background searching on that, but the original YMCA in Pittston started in 1880. In Wilkes-Barre, it was around the same time. I mean, we have, almost 200 years worth of rich history that dates back.
Where did it originally start, the YMCA?
In England.
Oh, in England.
Yes, in England. Okay. That was the very first launch of the Y. So, I mean,
And when you said it was a refuge for young men, like what did that mean?
So young men that were really kind of trying to find their way, in between work or not really sure of having a purpose, it provided them a resource and an outlet to go to and kind of keep themselves out of trouble, but also give them an area to socialize with other young men, but also, as the song says, get a good meal, have a place to sleep, catch a shower. It provided that type of resource that otherwise wouldn't be available for young men that were either displaced or, like I said, trying to find their way. So we've transformed that model over the years.
Right.
So it's a little bit different now than what it was, but that was the original intent of the YMCA.
How long was it exclusive to what that model would have initially set out to be?
Well, exclusivity to the young men wasn't always there. So I know that sounds odd, but there used to be off committees with the YMCA. So they used to have like women's auxiliaries that would work with the YMCAs as well. And they would also help serve in Bible studies and church practices and all of those sort of activities as well.
Is there a YWCA?
There is. That's an entirely separate organization. There's
no association?
Not really, no.
Okay.
No, yeah, they're two separate entities, two separate missions.
Gotcha.
Now, years ago, Ys and YWs would work together, but as far as affiliations and mission services, they're separate entities.
Understood. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Going back to, the Hazelden YMCA was a YMYW. Scranton used to have a YMYW. Kind of going off the rails with YMCA history here.
Yeah, but I love it because I think that's what's interesting to kind of bring us full circle.
Sure. So with the Y and the exclusivity to men, that was really more in its inception. But as time went on, they recognized, we need to have community focus, community service, and we need to be able to try to drive everybody in. So like I said, they had those women auxiliary groups that would be formed, and a lot of it was religious based. Like I said, Bible study, church services, really trying to find themselves back into Christ, which is, part of what the original YMCA mission entailed.
So it's a Christian based organization?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So many people now, we default to the Y, right? Initially it was the YMCA, Young Men's Christian Association. And over time that kind of dropped, it became more so just the Y, mainly because we want to have this inclusive environment for everybody. So when you kind of funnel it down to the Christian part, not to say that that's not what our mission is still driven in. When you drive it down just to that, it seemed like it was kind of exclusive instead of the inclusive,
sure,
which we were going for.
Yeah. And so at some point it graduated and it became, to your point, a lot more inclusive. And then it seems like, now when we talk about young men, was it initially intended when it was founded, was it initially intended for like the younger, or was it like teenage? Like what was the initial thought?
The initial thought wasn't necessarily for children in elementary age and all of that. It was more so for the teenage men or teenage boys or those that were transitioning into adulthood, into manhood, and they like I said, needed that guidance along the way when they otherwise felt lost.
And in a way, it's still there, right? The organization is still kind of serving that original mission in that sense, because it is, I mentioned in the opening that this was an organization that meant something to me as a kid. I went to summer camp every single summer. And then throughout the year, right, I would go to the Y for the after school program. I grew up and my mom was a single mom. And so my brother and I would go, and we would go up to Francis Slocum, was our summer camp. Are you guys still doing that?
Our summer camp now is all at our Whitehaven site at Camp Kresge.
So that's that was always the stayover camp. Mm-hmm. Do you guys still do a day camp program?
We do the day camp up at Camp Kresge. Yeah.
Oh, it's there too.
Yeah, we do day and over.
Everything is there.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, that's a little bit of a hike every day. But but the memories, and what's really cool is that like we still have our group of friends, right? I'm 45 years old now. I was 13. I'm still in touch with those people. Like these are lifetime friends now. Like our memories of spending those summers together, and it was great. I worked myself up to a counselor in training. I did that whole bit when I was like
CIT
14.
program,
The CIT program, and it was really I think a fundamental experience for me that gave me something. Like it kept me busy, occupied, and of course I played school sports and stuff. But when you were at camp, it was like you look forward to it. It was a really great experience. And there's so many more programs that you guys do. I mean, we would see all the kids that are coming there for, I guess we'll unfold that. But I remember there was like the gymnastics program that was there. There was swimming program that was there. There was so much stuff. Let's kind of dive into like what you guys are doing today. What programs are available? What at the facilities? What's there?
Sure. So we still do all of that. I think one common misconception that people have about the Y in programming is the first thought they have is gym and swim. You're going to go there, you're going to swim, and you're on a basketball court, or you're going to lift weights. That's it. But the evolution of the Y and the programming that we offer now is so much more than that. Obviously we have our flagships. We're going to do the swim lessons still. That those are life-saving skills that we provide. We're still going to do youth basketball. Basketball was founded within the YMCA's. With James Naismith in Massachusetts. These programs are now, like I said, into this evolutionary phase where we offer these childcare programs. We offer the day and overnight camp programming at Camp Kresge. We have family programming that is more emphasized than ever, with our family swims, with our flick and floats, with now our inclusive programming with partnerships with the Gregory Center and Beyond Behavioral Consulting, trying to get more neurodiverse families involved as well and providing them an outlet. Our programming is it's pretty vast, it's pretty significant, and we have a little bit of everything for everybody. And that's just on the youth and the family side. I haven't even touched on some of our senior programming and our programming for active older adults as well. If you're between 6-week-old and 180, we'll find something for you. 180,
love that. Yeah, we'll find something for you at 180. Maybe to unpack that a little bit, talk about, let's dive into what some of those programs look for. We have a vast array of listeners. Everybody's got family and friends of some sort. And I think you're right about, for sure, I would agree with this statement that they think it's, swim, workout, basketball. Like you kind of, and I think it's because those are some primary facilities that are there, right? Mm. So, I mean, I could tell you, like my in-laws, right? They go to the Y constantly. That's what they go to. They go to the cycle class. They go to do their workouts. And my mother-in-law loves to go swimming. Like that was her thing, right? So, now, is there still a pool at the Wilkes-Barre?
There is, yes.
Because it was there, then it wasn't there, then it was there.
So my understanding was that there used to be 2 pools there. One pool was filled in and then converted into our wellness center, and then we retained the other pool as well.
Where's the other pool?
So when you walk into the facility, if you go towards the back of the building and you make a hard right down the ramp,
okay,
the pool will be right through some double doors over there.
Gotcha.
But like I said, there used to be 2 pools side by side that, again, one was filled in, created more space for a wellness center, and the other one's still operable.
I didn't realize there was 2 pools. Yeah, that's interesting.
That's my understanding. Now, I'm still relatively new to the association, but that's my understanding is that years ago there were 2 pools there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm familiar with like when you would, because you'd be able to exit out the back of the locker room, I think, right?
Yes.
The back of the locker room would walk right out to the pool.
Close to the pool, yeah.
And that's what I remember anyway. And but I recall that there would be the upper balcony too, where you can overlook, and that upper balcony now is all wellness center, right?
Yeah. So funny enough, there's an upper balcony for the current pool as well. So
okay.
But yes, that upper balcony does, in the old pool, that upper balcony still will observe down onto the wellness center.
Okay. It did. It definitely did open up a lot of space from what I remember, because when I was a kid and going there, I would remember that like they had like all these smaller rooms of all of the different workout equipment, and there was the free weight room, then there was the Nautilus room, Universal room, et cetera, and then it kept going on. Basketball court, is that still holding strong in Wilkes-Barre?
It is. So that's it's not just for basketball anymore, actually. It's actually become our multi-purpose sporting area, whether it be basketball, whether it be our youth programming, whether it be pickleball, which is booming right now.
I was going to say pickleball's been blowing up.
It's taken over everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I think it's the fastest growing sport in the U.S. Among all ages. So, yeah, it's blowing up everywhere.
Nice.
But basketball's still holding strong. As far as, going back to our discussion on programming, we've been able to partner with some really great local agencies and companies that provide some of that programming for us. In Wilkes-Barre, we have My Sky Elite, which is ran by Doug Miller and Darnell Ford. Doug is also our branch executive director in Wilkes-Barre, so he's tied into it and has a little bit more of a personal buy-in. But he does a great job with that. Him and Darnell are excellent. And then at our Pittston site, we have Jimmy DeSoy running JD Hoops out of the Pittston Y as well, and we were just really fortunate to have those type of partnerships between those two different organizations, because they're a great help to the Y, and they're a great help to the community as well for the programming they offer.
Now, from a youth program standpoint, I know it's pretty vast, but from a youth program standpoint, the audience that you serve. Right, because some programs could have a price tag associated with it that, some parents are like, I wish I could afford that. I wish I could do that. But as an organization, I've heard, and this is maybe where we can kind of work through this. What are those programs look like? How do are there programs for underprivileged, or like how does that work?
So we don't really segment the programs as far as who can, who can't. But what we do offer is financial assistance for anybody that's looking to search or looking to participate in any of our programming, whether that be childcare programming, whether that be swim lessons, whether that be basketball, whatever it may be. If there's a fee associated to it, the beauty of the YMCA is that we offer financial assistance. And that's really why we kind of go into our annual campaign and try and generate funds to replenish those funding sources so that we can offer it back into the community.
How does that work? So if you have a family, is there like an application process to that for financial assistance?
There is. If somebody's claiming a financial hardship, they would just fill out a financial assistance form. We would have to review all the necessary documentation behind it, and we would work out a payment structure that would be able to fit their budget and hopefully have them be able to participate in our programming. And I think that's the beauty of the YMCA, is that we pride ourselves on not turning anybody away for an inability to pay. We're here to work for you, and we will do whatever we can in whatever capacity to provide some type of scholarships to allow the community to partake in what we offer. That's what we're about.
I always find it interesting to talk about the organization so that the general public can get a better understanding of how it functions, because I think one of the things that has always been confusing when you talk about nonprofits, and then you go, well, it's a nonprofit, but they're charging a membership fee, they're charging this fee, they're charging this fee. And it's like, okay, but there's staff required, there's operational expenses, there's all of this, stuff that's happening. So I'm assuming you get certain grants, you get some donor, how does the organization function as a whole? So that way the general public can kind of get an understanding. Here's how the YMCA functions. Here's how it gets funded. Here's how we operate and do the things that we want to do.
Sure, and I think you kind of touched on it as you were going through all of that. We are a nonprofit, but just because we're a nonprofit doesn't mean that we can't charge. We still, to your point, we have expenditures that we have to cover. Staffing we have to cover. We have regulatory things that we have to cover. From a pool perspective, chemicals, electricity, all of that. We have an overhead that we have to meet. But as far as the functionality of the YMCA, we gain a lot of our funding through memberships and through program fees. But then we also have, the fortunate avenue of going through grants and having large donors and going down those avenues to allow us to operate to full capacity. It's it's a challenge at times, though, because when you rely on certain things like grants and certain donors, those are never guarantees.
Right.
Which is why, we always try and pride ourselves on giving the best services, on giving the best programming, providing a great member experience. Because if we don't have that and we don't have the members or the community coming back to us, we're in trouble. So that's why we try and, offer various programming across all different age groups. That's why we offer that financial assistance. That's why we actively fundraise. That's why we have, our membership fees and our program fees, but we try and make them reasonable so that people can come and join the Y. So that's, in a nutshell, kind of the operative way that we go about it. It's an interesting time to be a nonprofit, but we're plugging along, and I think we're doing the best that we can, and continue just driving along just as great as we're going to be.
I'm curious. So every organization has their challenges. Everybody has. Here's the thing we're really trying to do, and we wish more people knew about. These are the things that we've been working at, and we want the public to know more about this. Is there something like that?
Well, I think one thing that the public should know, whether they do or don't, one thing that the public should know is that, at a child perspective, we are the largest child care provider in the U.S. among nonprofits, and we're also the leading resource for swim lessons across the country as well. And when you think about that, there's two elements to that are lifelong and life-changing. And I say that because when you have children that are involved in a quality early learning education program, their likelihood for success through life exponentially increases. They have a better opportunity educationally. They have a better behavioral aspect in the classroom, and they're more prepared and better off when going into kindergarten and grades above. Now, that's one aspect in the child care sense. The other side is the swim lesson side. And although I preface that by saying child-related, we provide swim lessons for all ages, from, like I said before, 6 weeks up to, if you're 180, you want swim lessons, please come join us. So with that, though, I mean, we provide skills that are essentially going to save someone's life should they ever need to use them. Swimming is obviously a recreational sport. It's obviously something that people enjoy as hobby and leisure. But God forbid you're ever in a boat on a lake and your boat capsizes, you fall over, you go overboard, whatever it may be. If you don't know how to swim, that's a very, very terrifying situation to be in. So with that, going back to your initial question, what's something that I hope that the community knows is that we're here to serve and provide programming that's going to enhance and provide a life-changing skill or put you in the best opportunity or best position for yourselves as you grow through life. And as I say that, sorry to ramble, but as I say that, I think about that too in the same aspect of our active older adults and our senior citizen programming and our CDP programming. You join those programs, and just by becoming more active, you are setting yourself up for a healthier, longer, sustainable life. So, I know I got a little off topic there, but I think the community needs to know that we have something for everybody, and we're here to enhance the lifestyles of all that want to come in through our doors.
Yeah, I mean, perfect world, right? Anybody walks in and just says, "I'm interested in learning more," right? I want to be doing things. I want to be involved. I want to be active. I mean, is that really the core? Is to just try to be a resource for people to engage a healthier, active life? I mean, along with providing the social aspect as well, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we want to be able to provide that for everybody. I mean, we're, as the slogan says, we're for healthy living, youth development, and social responsibility. If people are coming in and they say, "Hey, I want to be more active," well, fantastic. Sometimes we have people coming in and they don't know what they're looking for, and it's our job to kind of guide them along the path that they're looking to achieve. So whether that be, a healthy, active lifestyle, or maybe that's getting them involved in a program that really, although it's a physical activity, they're utilizing it for their social activity, helping to alleviate some social isolationism, or helping maybe a introverted child and breaking them out of their shell by putting them into a group sport or a group program. That's really at the core of what we're trying to achieve, is going back to those three pillars, healthy living, social responsibility, youth development.
Is there specialized programming for folks with special needs or anything along those lines?
Yes. The short answer to that is yes. Most recently, we've partnered with the Gregory Center and working with neurodiverse individuals and families. So with that, we were able to provide through a grant through YMCA of the USA, we were able to provide 20 families free swim lessons for 8 weeks. With that, we're now transitioning it into a family and social gathering on the last Friday of every month, which is really just it's a twofold program. We're trying to get the kids involved to have more social outings, but two, to help parents who are going through, the difficulties of raising a neurodiverse child and feeling kind of like they're on their own with this, but putting them together with other families that are going through the same situation and really kind of creating a social network for them so they don't feel isolated, so that they feel like, hey, I can rely on Jimmy or Jane or whoever it may be because they know exactly what I'm going through now. So as far as specialized programming, that's one that we just recently started and I'm really proud of. I'm really excited about that. And then two, we're working with Beyond Behavioral Consulting. And with that, we're working with special needs individuals and helping them learn life skills by having them through the facility and really kind of going through some like customer service-based type skills, greeting members, going through some general and light cleaning practices, but then also getting them in the water as well and having them socialize and have like a free rec period for themselves as well. So those are two that I'm really excited about and really proud of. And that's definitely something that we're looking to expand on as we continue to grow across the county and our other sites become fully operational.
Do you have a lot of association with other organizations?
We do. Can you expand on that a little bit?
So like any initiatives that you guys do that sort of cross-pollinate and multi-purpose or multi-serve your missions, coming together is better. It's a community. It's we can expand your mission. You can help us expand our mission. Because I hear like beyond behavioral, right? But it's the idea there is that's the type of collaborations that you think of, right? Because some programs want to be able to probably leverage your facility to run their program, right? So how does that work? Let's say somebody wants to run a basketball program or wants to do something that they have a nonprofit, but they need the facilities. Are there collabs like that?
There are times. One of our biggest collaborations, though, is at the state level, where we actually work with the Area Agency on Aging, and that actually helps us provide certain programming to seniors and those that are dealing with the social isolationism, as I was talking about before. And some of those programs are pretty incredible. A lot of them are water-based, and some of them are what they're called EBHI, evidence-based health initiatives. So we do work with them in providing those types of programs as well. We have a slew of them, from water aerobics to what's it called? Drawing a blank here. Matter of Balance, Fit and Strong. There's a large list of evidence-based programming that we do that's through state collaborations as well.
It's interesting because I've heard a couple of times you use the sort of evidence-based terminology. So it's neat because, years ago, I don't think you would have heard a lot of the language around, sort of like data collection, data aggregation, learning. It was more of like, this program works. You just kind of, you put it in place. People are smiling. They look better, right? And oftentimes that's what's going on behind the scenes. Is that a big part of the program, is to work on initiatives that are evidence-based and continue to optimize and improve programming?
That's a part of it for our wellness and chronic disease programming. The evidence-based piece behind it is what we can utilize to show people like, hey, this does translate into a healthier, better lifestyle for you. The other piece of that too is that, because it's a state type program or, through the area agency, it opens up a door to individuals that otherwise probably wouldn't seek out the YMCA.
Sure.
So we have another avenue that allows them to kind of come into the doors for that. And that's just, I refer back to the area agency, but I mean, we have other initiatives as well. We have the Silver Sneakers. We have our third-party programs through the insurance companies. Depending on your insurance carrier, you can come to the YMCA for reduced cost and other health initiatives that are being offered as an insurance perk for that individual as well. Like I said, Silver Sneakers is one of them. We have Tivity memberships. I mean, there's a ton.
Do you guys do like corporate partnerships or something, like where a company comes in and all of their employees can get a discounted rate, or a school or something like that?
Yep, we do that. We have a few corporate partnerships already that we utilize, and that's at multiple sites too. So it's not specific just to Wilkes-Barre. It's not specific to just Pittston. We try to utilize the corporate perk as often as we can, because again, we want to try and enhance the lives of as many people as possible across as many areas as possible.
Yeah. Have you this could be a salty subject, but have you felt an impact from a facilities perspective with respect to the wave of these bigger, very cheap fitness-based facilities?
So it is a salty question, so thank you for saying.
Yeah, I recognize that, but it's interesting because it's the evolution of.
Sure, and what I would say to that is that although we fall within or underneath the umbrella of fitness and wellness, going back to my other statement earlier, we're more than just a gym.
Sure, yeah.
So while some people might say, well, I can go to the purple and yellow box gym, for this amount of money, why would I pay to come here? My argument to that is, well, your membership not only gets you access to a gym and to a basketball court and to a pool and to locker room and all this, it also supports your community. It also allows those dollars to be utilized for a kid to go to preschool. It also allows the senior citizen who otherwise wouldn't find the resources to come to the Y, gives them that opportunity. The dollars that are going into each YMCA membership, those are dollars that are going to be reinvested back into our community. That's the beauty of the nonprofit, was that when those dollars come into us, our responsibility now is to reinvest it back into the organization and into our community. So that would kind of be my counter argument to those that are saying, well, I can go there for $10, I can go here for $15. Well, you could, but you're not getting the same that you're going to get from us.
Yeah, I figured that at the end of the day, the answer would be it's sort of also a different customer.
It is.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, like just rationalizing who's going where, it's a different customer. I mean, I've always identified the YMCA brought a lot of value when you have an entire family using all the different things.
Well, that's one piece of it. That's the one unit that we try to capture. We want to try and have the family come in. We want to have, the young parents with the young children, the infants, the toddlers, the school age, and just have them kind of feed up through the pipeline of the Y, have them forever, right? So that's one part of it. But the other part of this too is that with the YMCA, we're very big on creating culture of inclusivity, but also creating that feeling of I want to be here and they want me here, right? We want people to walk through our doors and say, oh, I have that feeling of I'm just welcome. I feel home here. I feel like these are, my friends. These are my family. And you're not going to get that at other gyms, And again, that's where we separate ourselves from the other box type organizations, is that when you walk through our door, you're going to see the same familiar face. You're going to know exactly what's going on, and you're going to feel good knowing exactly where your dollars are going. And again, that's just a small part of it. But the bigger piece to all of this is that we want to be able to create environments and cultures and have people feel like they belong here and that this is where they're supposed to be, where it becomes just second nature and it becomes a habit of their routine. That's where I think we can separate ourselves, and we do separate ourselves from some of those other box gyms.
Outside of, the fitness aspect, thinking about people who are interested in a holistic wellness type program, are there resources within the Y for nutrition and all of the sort of, I guess that is the word, the holistic wellness component?
Sure. I mean, we could always default back to, if you lift weights, if you walk, if you jog, if you do all that, you could be healthier. But you also need to have a nutritional component to that as well. And recently, we've brought on pretty specialized wellness staff that are specific to the nutritional aspect. So in addition to just the wellness team having a nutritional background and helping individuals and clients understand what proper nutrition is, understanding proper macros, calorie counting, all of that, we also tie that into our chronic disease prevention as well. When we talk about our diabetes prevention programming, when we talk about our matter of balance programming, it's just understanding what it is that we have to use as fuel versus just eating whatever. And with CDP, Casey Waslick, who's our CDP director, she does an excellent job of setting up nutritional consults and setting up nutritional programming to offer up to the community, because at the end of the day, when you think about chronic disease prevention, our default is to go to senior citizens, but chronic disease prevention starts at the youngest ages.
Sure does.
When you think about diabetes prevention programming, we used to always say early onset diabetes. Now it's, early onset juvenile diabetes, it starts at the youngest ages. So the nutritional component is something that we've definitely added into our realm, and I think we're doing a pretty good job with it. And I'm glad that you asked that, because I don't think a lot of people recognize that we offer the nutritional component to our Y services.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Maybe a year and a half ago I wouldn't have asked, but for me, I've been on a journey, and so nutrition has become a big part of my life personally, and in my own exploration of things. I was one of those who historically couldn't find what worked for me. I could never feel good. Everything was just some kind of fad diet type thing, right? And at the core of everything, it was this idea that it was my relationship with food. It was, you just pointed out something. You said the idea is to recognize it as fuel rather than just something to sit around and eat and whatever, right? And that's it. It's you have to change your relationship with food, and then also recognize what it is that you're consuming, how you're consuming, and any organization that could play a role in that early education of that, I think is crucial. I'm biased to this subject because I think as a young man, I wasn't educated right on that subject. I think that I was misled, and I believed certain things, and albeit that some people think what I'm doing is a bit extreme, I've been on this carnivore diet for the past year and a half. I've lost 158 pounds now.
Oh man, congratulations! That's awesome.
Thanks, man. And I feel like I'm a whole new person. Like I feel incredible. There's no stopping now. Like I'm just going to continue doing this. But in that journey, it's this idea that if I root back to when I was a kid and I think about the way that we're taught things, the way that we're shown things. I mean, being a part of youth programs, we've got a jug of sugar water. Like there's all these things that like I think back to, and I'm like, man, like all of that is that's habit forming, and I'm glad that more people are getting aware and that there's programs like this early prevention. And I'd be intrigued to learn more about how that is being implemented at the youth level, because I think that more parents need to be aware of, like, even them, they're culturally biased. Right. So like to get involved in family-based programming to really learn nutrition. Right. How and everybody has this idea of like, it's expensive to eat healthy. No, it's not. There are resources everywhere. Right. And albeit that I'm not here preaching vegetables and stuff, it's not a part of what I'm doing, but that is 10 times, 100 times healthier than getting boxed processed food. And, and so that's a whole other conversation. And I've talked about it before on my episodes, and people have been following along with my journey, but it's important because it's important to create awareness around it, because then there are programs, there are organizations that have those educational tracks embedded in their programming. And if we don't opt in, if we don't know about it, if we're not, becoming a part of it, then like, where are we going?
Right. And I agree 100% is, going back to your statement before about people saying, oh, if I'm going to eat healthy, I need to have X amount of dollars and this and that. It's not true. Mm-mm. It's not true. Try and go to McDonald's or Burger King or Taco Bell or whatever it is.
Do the math.
And try and get a legitimate meal to feed your family on $30.
Yeah.
You can't.
Right.
You can't. You can get a bunch of junk and everyone's going to split. It's not good. You go to the grocery store for $30, I guarantee you can get a pack of chicken, some vegetables, some rice, whatever it may be.
You could eat for 3 days.
Exactly. But going to your point, it's a nutritional education component.
Yeah.
And I think it's in a world where we have so much knowledge and information at our fingertips, we miss the easy stuff in front of us.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important for the health of the community for those educational pieces to be brought up more and people to seek out a little bit more insight and information on how they can better themselves nutritionally.
Sure. I mean, and it goes to the point of not just giving somebody a lecture, right? Mm-hmm. It's about asking them, if I were to ask you, hey, by consuming this vegetable, what are the inherent health benefits of that, right? Like, think about it like this, because I always find this, I find this incredibly interesting. We'll shove whatever in our mouth and we'll eat whatever blindly. You won't read a label. You won't do anything. There's loads of chemicals and all this compounded crap that's inside of a lot of what we see in our grocery stores. But the moment that somebody says something about taking a medicine or something like that, suddenly you're like, well, but it's going to give me this problem. It's going to give me this problem. Or, oh, I don't know. It's going to give me this problem. But you just drank all that alcohol and you didn't have a problem. Or you just ate that box of cupcakes and you didn't have a problem. And it's mind-boggling, because when you really break it down, if you paid as much of attention to the food that you eat as much as you would maybe before you take a medicine or you take something that you'd be nervous of, where you're actually reading the label, is we should have that same kind of mindset. And that early portion, I have to give my sister-in-law credit with respect to this. I used to like roll my eyes at her because she's raising my nephew and my niece, and before I started my journey, I was like, oh, she's so extreme. Right? Like, they're not going to touch this, they're not going to touch this, or whatever. But I couldn't believe, I was just watching my nephew. He's, I'm forgetting how old he is now, but he's 5, maybe. I think he just turned 4 or 5. They were just having a birthday party event, and all these kids were over, and then the kid had cake or something, and my nephew literally stood there and he goes, oh, no, I don't eat that stuff. And like exactly what your eyebrows just did, right? My eyebrows did. And I was like, what? He says, no, I don't eat that stuff. And then preferred to eat fruit or vegetables. And I was blown away by that. But if that was it, just because if he thought it was a rule, that'd be one thing. But if you said why, right? Which I was curious. So I asked him why. Why won't you eat that? He says, well, because it will cause disease. It'll make me sick. It'll create skin issues. And I'm like, this kid's 4 or 5. But he's like consciously aware now from an education standpoint. And I'm thinking, man, like, that's my problem. Like, I didn't know that stuff when I was a kid. I know there's some, I feel like as we grow up, right? Our food is a big, and especially in America, is a big part of celebration, and we create habits that are not healthy with our relationships with food. But when we start to think about nutrition and we start to think about these embedded programs that are accessible, and parents ignore it, or we don't, as a family, find out how we could be healthier, we're not fixing the future. And that's where I always like to expand, like more so now, especially. I'm sad that I didn't know more about it. I mean, I was a guy who was always in the gym. I loved it. I was a power lifter. Right. But from a nutrition standpoint, it was protein, but whatever else I was taking in, I didn't really
just
pay
throw
attention.
it in the furnace. We're gonna burn it out. You know?
Yeah, it was just we're gonna rip it out, and this is what we're doing. We're getting big. We're getting strong, and that's it. But I'm also getting sick, and inflammation kicks in. You get a little older, then you use that as a reason why you're not going to the gym anymore. And it's interesting. There's so many wellness programs that where people could expand and feel so much better, but it starts with nutrition. Mm-hmm. And so when you talk about organizations like the Y, and you have a program where somebody's like, listen, I would dream about getting in the pool again. I would dream about getting back into the gym. And it's great because a year and a half ago, if you said, hey, Frank, do you want to go to the gym? I'd be like, man, I'd love to go to the gym, but I can't. I hurt my back, my shoulder, all this stuff, right? All I had to do was change the way I eat. And all of a sudden, that pain, that inflammation started to go away, and I started to feel encouraged, and I had the energy. And so now going is not intimidating for me now. Sure. Right? It's more, I have to find the time and make it a routine schedule. That's part of my challenge now, but I'm not afraid to go because I'm going to hurt. I'm not making an excuse anymore. Right. I went golfing for the first time the other day in years, and I was so excited. I was like, all this just because of the way I changed eating.
And that's the thing, man. Like that's what we want to do. We want to be able to provide people these opportunities. And to your point, you had this intimidation factor, or you had these these barriers behind it. What's the best way to break any barrier? Take the first step to changing it.
Yeah.
And that's where we're at. We want to be able to provide people these opportunities where if they feel like they're stuck or they can't or have whatever excuse they devise, we want to be able to give them that opportunity and say, listen, we have something that we can work with you. All we need is for you to commit to it, and we'll take care of the rest with you. And I say with you because it's not, here you go, you're on your own. It's, we're going to get you set up. We're going to create this and make it a habit and a ritual for you. You're going to take care of the rest once we get to that point. And that's that community aspect that I was talking about before. We want to be able to see this through for everybody.
Now, you guys also do, or do you still have competitive teams, like leagues, location? I remember, if I think back, there was a basketball league, or there was youth gymnastics, and there was some level of competition there.
So yes and no. So we don't do the gymnastics any longer.
Okay.
But we do have our competitive swim team still. As far as basketball goes, we have our youth basketball leagues, which are a part of our youth basketball programming. And then we also have our men's basketball leagues as well. So we have a few different competitive sports leagues that go on. And then we have, open pickleball, which has become competitive. Like I said, that's a booming sport for us at the Y.
How does that work? Is that two-man leagues, two-person leagues?
I wouldn't even call it a league. We have it designated. We have it designated as just an open pickleball, and it kind of just naturally, organically forms itself into doubles and mixed doubles, and they're just doing their own thing. So I wouldn't necessarily call it a league, but it becomes competition pretty quickly on these open pickleball nights, and it doesn't matter what location you go to.
It's open night.
Yeah,
Just come in.
We have designated time for the pickleball, and nets are up. You come in, you play.
How many get to play at the same time?
In Pittston, we have 2 courts. We have 2 courts available, and then in Wilkes-Barre, we'll have 3 courts available. So it's really just how fast people set their point match and turn it over there.
Nice. And does that turn into tournaments and stuff?
It not organized by the Y, but yeah.
Okay.
Like I said, our faithful pickleball participants will kind of, organize within this open play and organize the, whether it be teams, whether it be, round robin, however it is, they kind of just set it up on their own.
Yeah.
It's really an incredible thing to watch and see how they, really kind of band together and dedicate themselves to that sport. I haven't seen anything like it before.
Yeah, it's pretty neat, and it did go crazy viral as a sport. You've got full on resorts dedicating their pieces of their property now to what maybe once was more of a tennis court environment. They're just going all out with pickleball courts.
Oh yeah.
It's craziness.
You'll go down, especially down south. You can find areas in the Florida area where they have 16 pickleball courts just on one side of the resort. You go to the other side, they get another 16. You know, it's incredible to watch. It really is. You know, just the boom of it all.
Yeah, I didn't get to play pickleball, but I've given a racquetball a shot. It didn't take long before I was in the corner. Like, you know, but I hear that pickleball is you know, fair to moderate, and people enjoy it for that reason, because it's not too extreme, but at the same time keeps you moving, and people are really feeling better playing.
Oh,
so
yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, it's really great to see the different age groups that get out there.
Have you played?
I have. I've been playing since high school.
Pickleball.
Yes. Yeah, and for reference, I graduated high school in 2007. So I've been playing pickleball. I shouldn't say I've been playing pickleball. I've known about and played some elements of the game since about 2005. Before it really kind of
20 years
boomed, you know, before it really boomed into what it is now.
Yeah.
I remember sitting at a conference in 2013, and they were like, "Has anyone heard about pickleball?" And I'm new to the Y. I'm a rookie Y, staffer. And I raised my hand. I'm like, I have. And they're like, "Tell us all about it." I was like, "Oh, I don't know that much." But yeah, it's really taken off.
It's like tennis, but shorter.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you take all of your racket sports, put it into one, and there's something called a kitchen. I don't really know what it is, but stay out of it.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Well, I mean, and that's just neat because, I think back to when I was a kid, all the things that I knew about the YMCA, and you just think about the evolution of that program and the way, and there's a lot of, it sounds like there's a lot of the things that have just stayed rooted, haven't gone away. And do you see a lot of generational membership? You know, like my grandparents were a member, so I came here when I was a kid, and now here I am as a full-blown adult, my own family coming here.
Yeah, you do. And now with this association, I've only been involved with the Greater Wyoming Valley Area YMCA for about 3 years. Prior to this, I was 10 years at another association. But yes, there is a ton of generational memberships or generational participation, or even to some extreme generational board member participant and volunteer participation as well. One thing that I really say, and I'm actually kind of fortunate that my professional route went this way, is that being placed into 3 different communities and seeing how they all kind of interact and what their commitments are, that's something that's really incredible to see. My time in Carbondale, you knew exactly what families were there from, you could say almost its inception. And then in Pittston, you can see what families have always been there, from the time that it opened up on Main Street, and even going through the lineage of those that were, board member participants. And now in Wilkes-Barre, I mean, that goes very deep. So again, a very long answer to a short question.
It's the point of this.
You can see those generational memberships and participants, and it's really cool. It just shows the commitment they have for their community and really kind of the pride they have and where they come from. Is
there a board for each location?
There is. So each branch will have an advisory board, which is really responsible for kind of their fundraising efforts, and not so much about policy and fiduciary responsibilities, but more so kind of the operative type management of what's going on in the fundraising there. I'll tell you, my time in Pittston, I could not have been more fortunate for the advisory board we had there. You want to talk about people that are dedicated to their community? That group is by far one of the most dedicated groups that I've ever worked with in any capacity on a board level. They are just so proud and prideful of where they come and how much they love not only that Y, but the Pittston community as a whole. They're an incredible bunch. One of my favorite sayings is, you want to change the world, but how's your hometown? These people are taking care of their hometown, and I can tell you that if they wanted to, they could very easily change the world. That's how fortunate and how proud I was to be able to work with those individuals.
Nice. How long do you know how long the boards run? Like the active membership of the boards? Like how many times do they cycle through them, and how do you decide who's going to be on the board?
It really depends on whether it's at an advisory board level or we have our corporate regional board structure as well. So it varies between the two, but there are term limits with them. As far as who do we decide joins an advisory board or a regional board, generally speaking, if you're a part of an advisory board, then the regional board will then look into see, which members of the advisory board should sit in on the regional corporate board as well.
Gotcha. And so is that something that if somebody was interested in becoming a part of, they would just contact and apply or something of that sort?
Yeah, if somebody's interested in becoming a board member and volunteering their time to the YMCA, I think the easiest path to do that would be to contact the branch executive at each site and just explore how many seats are still open or available for advisory board membership. And then, like I said, for the corporate and regional level, that's something that is almost voted upon. But you could also reach out to myself or Jim Thomas, our CEO, about trying to get onto that regional board and serve in some type of volunteer capacity as well.
Jim is the CEO now.
Jim Thomas, yes.
He used to be at Wilkes-Barre, right?
Still is.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jim was around when I was a kid.
Jim's been around forever.
Yeah. Jim was there when I was a kid.
He's the godfather of YMCAs, man.
Wow. Wow. I remember Jim.
Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. He's a great guy.
He is a good guy.
He's an incredible individual, man.
Yeah, I remember Jim. I think when I was a kid, I think he would have been titled like executive director or something like that.
Yes, yeah. So the executive director at the time when YMCAs were independent and operating as individuals, executive director, CEO, they were kind of like synonymous terms. But then as we kind of created this association and branched out, that's where his title had, firmly changed to CEO.
Yeah. Wow. That's pretty cool. Great to hear he's still there doing his thing. Jim,
I got to say, my Y career, I've been very fortunate for the leadership that I've sat under. In Carbondale, I had two great leaders ahead of me coming over to the Greater Wyoming Valley Area YMCA. Jim has been an incredible leader to kind of learn from and sit under and just really kind of pick his brain on everything. You got a guy that's been around for 40 years and in the YMCA exclusively. You can learn a thing or two from him. And
I'm sure
just his pure dedication to not only the Y, but the Wilkes-Barre community and the surrounding communities within the county. I mean, the guy really cares, and he's just a genuine, authentic human, and very fortunate that I'm able to work alongside him.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I hope he listens to this whole thing, because then hopefully he'll remember me in some capacity, because I remember him from when I was a kid. And I think we've spoken at a few events here and there across the years while I had started my business, and I've seen him in different nonprofits, events and stuff. But I didn't realize that he was still there today.
Oh yeah,
that's great.
No end in sight. He'll be there forever.
Good.
Listen, we don't want him to go anywhere. So
yeah. No, he's a great guy. So to talk a little bit about your career, you said there was 3 different places you were before.
Yes.
Am I hearing that correct?
Yes.
So talk to me a little bit about, well, first off, where are you from?
Originally, I'm from New Jersey.
Okay.
I came up to Northeast Pennsylvania in January of 2008 to attend Keystone College.
Okay.
So I did my time there, and that's
what part of Jersey?
I grew up in Ocean County, New Jersey, in Point Pleasant.
Oh, okay.
Fresh out of high school, I wasn't really thinking about going to college, and not that I was getting in trouble or anything, but my dad kind of stepped in and was like, "Listen, you got 2 options. You're not going to like one of them, so take this one. You're going to college." Said, "All right, where do you want me to go?" He's like, there's a school up in Pennsylvania. They contacted me. I was an athlete. I played basketball. He's like, they contacted me about you running and playing. You're going up. You're going to check it out. I'm like, all right, whatever. Kind of drug my feet going up there, but went up there.
Did you have any idea what you wanted to do growing up?
I had no idea, man. My father owned a small screen printing and embroidery shop. And I just figured, you know what? Eventually I'm going to take this over.
Sure.
But at the same time, as I'm saying that, I'm also telling him, I hate this place, man. I'm not working for you. I can't do that.
Right. Yeah.
So I really didn't have a plan. At one point I was like, oh, maybe I'll go military. Maybe I'll do that. The fact of the matter is that I just needed to go somewhere and get some type of structure and direction. And, very, very, very grateful for my father having that very honest conversation with me, albeit probably pretty loud at the time, if I remember correctly. But he told me to go up there. And, I got accepted and admitted into the school in January of 2008. And pretty much stayed up here ever since then, going home just sporadically around holiday breaks.
What did you end up going to school for?
I went for, what I graduated with is not what I intended to go for. But
yeah, that's what's interesting.
Yeah, so I started off as a history ed major.
Okay.
I wanted to be, my sisters were teachers. I figured, okay, I could be a teacher too. My one sister was a phys ed teacher. I was like, no, okay, I'll do that. They're like, we don't offer that. I was like, all right, I'll go history. I like that.
I'm here.
Yeah.
Dad said I got to come here.
Yeah, I didn't have a choice. So why don't we close our eyes and we'll just point at something? We'll go with that.
Okay.
No. So I started as a history ed major, and then slowly figured out that maybe that wasn't for me. And then I went home for a semester, met up with a guy, started coaching with him at a local Catholic school, and he was like, if you're really into this coaching thing and you like rec, like maybe that's what you should go into. I was like, what do I go into? Just recreation? He was like, yeah. I was like, all right, I don't even know if my school offers it. Let's take a look. Come to find out, it's one of their largest programs they offer. So I made that switch. I found a passion for coaching and working with youth. And
is that what's involved in that program, by the way? Is it primarily like when you say I want to go and rec? What is that?
There's so many different tracks and avenues that you can go with it. So in the sport and rec program at the time when I was at Keystone, there was something called educational administration, which was really kind of a track if you wanted to become an athletic director or if you wanted to open up some type of business within the recreational field. So it aligned, unknowingly going into a YMCA, it aligned with what became my future career path. And it was just a really cool experience, though, because if you look back on it, or if I look back on it rather, it was a lot of business courses, but it was tied around recreational organizations or sports teams and all that, and really kind of made it more interesting than trying to, digest something that was a little bit more, structured or a little bit more boring, or, it related to stuff that I enjoyed. So that's kind of the degree in the educational track that I went down.
Was there something that jumped out at you that sort of, put the check mark next to it and you were like, oh yeah, this is what I need to be doing?
It's actually really funny. I was walking from my college house at the time, and I was going to class. I lived right down the road from campus. I was walking to class, and it started raining. And as I'm walking down, a professor that I knew but didn't know, I've never had any of their courses before, she ended up being the faculty head for the sport and rec program at Keystone, and said, hey, do you want to ride? I was like, yeah, sure. Get me out of the rain, right? So as we're going, we're talking, and she's like, you're new to the sport and rec program, right? I was like, yeah, well, I'm not sure if I'm going to stick with it. I don't really have an idea or anything. She's like, take this class. Because we were opening up for advisory sessions at that time for the next semester. She's like, take this class. She's like, if you don't like it after this class, it's just not going to be for you. She was very honest about it, which I appreciated. And I took it, and it was actually it was like an educational based class where we actually had to create lesson plans, and then the child care center on site on campus, we then had to implement our lesson plans with those kids. So it was really cool. It really ended up being like a program director apprenticeship type program. And that was where I was like, yeah, this is what I want to do. And at that point, though, I still had no idea about the tracks of a YMCA or anything like that. Because growing up, I didn't get involved in a Y. We had local rec centers, and that was really it.
Yeah. So
I had no involvement in a Y prior. And just by pure accident and just right place, right time, I ended up getting linked up with the CEO and the associate exec of the YMCA through that same advisor who gave me a ride in the rain.
Nice.
So yeah, it really came full circle. I don't know if she's listening to this, but Terry Wise, shout out to you for my career path. Appreciate it.
That's really cool. So you wrap up school. Now you're going to determine where you're going to go next. Where do you land?
So actually, while I was in my final semester, going back to meeting Steve Durkin and Jason Mackey at the Y, they actually came to the campus and was looking for a tour. That's how I got linked up for them. My advisor had just said, listen, you have this project, you should probably talk to these guys. And within 20 minutes of talking to these guys and giving them a tour with the group of seventh graders they were like, why don't you come up to our site? Why don't you come to the Y and check out what we have to offer? All right, well, I've never been to a Y.
That was Carbondale?
That was Carbondale, yeah. And I'm like, yeah, what the heck? Let me check this out. Before I left, they handed me an application and said, we'd like to use you on the weekends for some sports. Are you interested? And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And that's really how it all started. It started with 5 hours a week, and then it turned into 12 hours a week. Then next thing you know, I'm there 4 months, and just right place, right time again. The aquatics director left, and like, hey, how do you feel about full time becoming the aquatics director? It's like, all right, yeah, I've never done it before, but yeah, what the heck? Let's try this out. Let's go with it. And then, fast forward, man, I was there almost 10 years.
Wow.
What became a simple, yeah, I'll try it out. Yeah, what the heck? Let's do it. Yeah, sure. Turned into the budding career. For me, going through the YMCA.
Now, what do you love about it so much? Like what what got you to stick around? Because it's rare. You see somebody come right out of school, go somewhere, and then stay for 10 years. Today, there's so many people that bounce around until they find out where their home is.
Yeah. I think almost to a fault, I'm a loyalist as well. So that kind of keeps me there. The YMCA always treated me very well, but what really, I think in the earlier years of my career, what really kind of kept me there was, just the idea of being able to work in sports and be able to work in recreation and just feel like, hey, you know what, I have always done this my entire life. Now I get to do something that I've always loved. But as time went on and as I kind of went through the ranks of the Y, I think what really kind of keeps me there and keeps me really enjoying what I do is seeing the tangible positive effects that it has on people's lives. Our discussion earlier talking about how we can, really improve everybody's their lifestyle and their well-being. That's really what's incredible. My time as an aquatics director in Carbondale, I really I served primarily as an aquatics instructor as well. Did a lot of the aqua aerobics and all that. And I think that real aha moment, or oh my God, I'm actually making a difference moment, was when a member came out to me and said, hey, I was on all this medication for my diabetes. I just got my A1C back. It's the lowest it's ever been. And my doctor's thinking of pulling me off these meds. Thank you. And I had no idea. My whole thought behind this was, I'm coming to work. I'm going to get in the water. I'm going to bounce around a little bit, dry off, and go about the day, For those 45 minutes, every morning, Monday through Friday, I didn't realize that I was actually making a healthy, direct, positive effect on somebody's life. And I think after that, after having that conversation with that one particular member, it was really like, we are making a difference. This is, it may just be a job for some people, but we're actually affecting people's lives in a positive way, and we're making positive change. And I think that now is what really kind of keeps me rooted and grounded, and why I keep doing what we do.
Now, you decided to make NEPA your home. So you're in Carbondale for 10 years, right? Was that a surprise to your family then, too, that you decided to stay here?
I think initially my family was kind of like, oh, okay, well, how long are you going to take that job for?
Well, you're from one of those areas where, and I know people from there, they're there their whole lives.
Oh yeah, we're lifers down there.
I mean, that's why it's surprising to see that you left there. But I mean, I get now it makes sense when you hear the story. But that's typically like Point Pleasant, right? Like that whole area there, people stay there.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's on that piece. Like I really didn't appreciate what I had growing up and where we lived. Moving away, you appreciate that more because being able to hop on a bike and ride 15 minutes to a beach is great, but now you don't have that, and you're like, oh man, I really miss that.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I told my family that I was going to take the job, they were all thrilled, because how often do you, before you even graduate, have a full-time position lined up and salary, benefits, the whole deal? That doesn't happen often, especially in 2012, 2013 when I was graduating. It seemed like most people were still searching for their full-time position, career positions, all that. But then after a year or two, they're like, "Well, you gonna stay up there?" Yeah, Mom, I'm probably gonna stay up here for a little bit. Oh, okay. Well, what if something similar comes up? Mom, I'm gonna stick this one out for a little bit. But they were always really supportive of what it was that I was doing, and they knew that I had a passion for it. And it's not a long commute. They come up and visit. I go down and visit. It's one of those things that kind of worked itself out. And I love it up here. I think it's a really unique community up in Northeast Pennsylvania. And I think the hardest thing for me was to accept that I'm now a Northeast Pennsylvania, individual. I'm no longer a shore town resident. And just seeing what this area has to offer and the community that's here, it's amazing. And I think it's one of the best areas to live in all of the Northeast. So I'm real fortunate for that.
I'm glad to hear that. It's a mixed batch, right?
Yeah,
it's a mixed batch of opinions. But a lot of our guests, they give really good feedback as to why they love it here and the community. It's downfalls. There's always room for improvement for a lot of things.
That's any community, though, man.
Sure.
I mean, you talk about where I grew up and everything like that. Oh yeah, it's the beach. It's this, that. Listen, there's still those problems that you have in every single community, every township, every borough. It doesn't matter. It's all the same everywhere. It's what you make of it.
They all think that the grass is greener on the other side till they get there, spend some time, and then they go, oh, it's sort of the same thing, just a different view.
Right. Exactly.
And that's really what it boils down to. I always tell people, I'm like, why am I here? Like my parents moved to, my mom moved to, my mom and my stepdad, they moved to Raleigh 6 years ago. They've been trying to get us pack up and move down to Raleigh. We spend time there, right? We go down, we hang out, and I'm like, this is just a bigger Wilkes-Barre, right? Like it's really, I mean, like here we're 3 hours from the shore. Right, I could be to Pittsburgh in a day, Philly in a day. I could be in New York City in a day. Like there's so many places that we can go.
You could be in Canada in a day.
Well, exactly, right?
It's a 4.5 hour drive to the Canadian border. Like we can really go just about anywhere.
We get all the seasons.
Yep.
Right. It's not extreme heat, even though I love Florida. But I said, like, I don't know if I can move there now. I'm like, as I'm getting a little older, I'm like, vacation home someday. That would be the goal. But I'll come on the side of the fence a little bit of the people who have said, like, I love all the seasons. And I was always typically like, nah, I hate winter, right? But I don't know. This past year, I was thinking about it, and I was like, yeah, like, this is great. Like, you have, especially with all the activities that you can do, like, the skiing, the snow tubing, like, you're not going to do that down south. Like,
well, I think there's also a part that people neglect too, which is, you can still jet ski, you can still water ski, you can still tube, you can still get on the water, you can still, like, there's other elements beyond just, the mountains that we have here and skiing and snowboarding and all of that. Like, we still have water sports that are available as well.
Big time.
There's a ton of different things. If you like to run, you like to walk, you like to hike, the trail systems through here are
it's amazing.
They're amazing. Yeah. They've all had a ton of work done to them. It's all a beautiful landscape. It's just beautiful views. That's what I've really come to appreciate. It's just, the views that we have through the various valleys across Northeast Pennsylvania. It's beautiful here.
What do you do outside of work? What do you do for fun?
I'm a big sports enthusiast. So I coach basketball. I'm a JV basketball coach for Tunkhannock area.
Okay.
Shout out Tigers. And then I occasionally run. I like to just really kind of be outside whenever I can be. If you get me near the water, that's where I'm happiest. Just growing, like I said, growing up at a beach. If you put me near the ocean or you put me near a lake, that's all I need. I don't need a conversation. I don't need anything else. I just need a chair, some sunshine, and some water. And
that's
I'm
cool.
all good, man.
Family, kids.
I have a wife, and we have our dog Kazi with us as well.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What kind of dog?
He's a Shiba Inu.
All right.
Yeah, he's a cool little guy. He's stubborn as all heck, but yeah, he's cool.
I don't think I've actually ever seen a Shiba Inu in person, but I own some of it.
Oh yeah. You're the second person I talked to today that actually owns Shiba Inu.
Yeah. I mean, it's just one of those things. I just put a couple of bucks in it, and I'm ignoring it, and we're going to see what happens over the course of 10 years.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? That small investment might end up being my Florida house.
Hopefully, man. I hope.
Yeah.
Anybody that's invested into the crypto, I mean, I'm pulling for everybody. I want a big win for everybody across the board.
Yeah. Well, I'm not doing it to be the gambler. I'm more or less just like, I was one of those guys who had friends who invested heavily in Bitcoin early, and I didn't jump on that wagon. And
you're not missing the boat twice.
No. I mean, if I miss it, it's going to be because I at least had my foot hanging off the dock trying to get on. Not because I wasn't there. So, sure. Yeah. But it's cool though. So wife living here, you still get back home a lot?
Yeah, I try to get back home as frequently as I can. The last couple of months have been difficult. I was able to get down this past weekend for Memorial Day, which was great. Unfortunately, my parents were on the other side of the country visiting my brother in California. Oh. So I missed them, but I was able to still hang out with my sister and see my nephews, which is always a good time. So, missed mom and dad, but still got to see family.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, at some point in your career here, you're going from program director, doing what you're doing, and then this opportunity hits the table where you're offered a COO role, right?
Not quite that quick. I went from the program director, aquatics and program director in Carbondale. I left there and took an opportunity as the branch executive director in Pittston.
Okay.
And I was there for the last 2.5 years, just under 3 years, before transitioning and being promoted into my current role as COO. It just an incredible ride, man. The Pittston community is probably one of the most interesting communities I've ever worked in. And I mean that in the nicest, most loving way ever. One of the first things that I witnessed when I took over as the branch exec in Pittston is they were running a 3-on-3 tournament for Dylan Estico. And it was a memorial tournament for him. He unfortunately passed away. But the amount of support that was in that gym for this young man was it really left me speechless. Even now, it's hard to find the words to describe it. It felt like the entire Pittston community was in the YMCA that day in support of Dylan's mother and family. And that was probably my second week on the job, and I realized, my goodness, Pittston will take care of their own. And they are so passionate about their community. And it was that kind of eye-opening moment where I was like, okay, I need to find a way to break in and become a part of this, because if you can get in with the Pittston community, they're going to take care of you. And I was very fortunate. We were able to kind of rebuild the trust of the Pittston Y with that community. And the 2.5 years, almost 3 years that we were there, some of the improvements that we made because of the support of the community, amazing. I couldn't have asked for a better opportunity with that Y and with that community and with the team that we established there.
Mike Lombardo is a hell of a mayor too.
Mayor Mike he's amazing.
Yeah. I was just talking to him because I serve on the board at Habitat, and we just did a house dedication in Pittston, and he was there, and this guy is just endless. Like, he's just constantly doing as a mayor versus just showing up on like the 9 to 5, you know?
And what's great about him too is, selfishly, he's always thinking about the why as well. I mean, he thinks about the entire community, but for a guy that has so many projects going on, for being the catalyst for Main Street revitalization across Pennsylvania and really nationwide, he's kind of set the precedent on what a Main Street should be and how to revitalize it across the nation. Across all of these various projects that he has, he still remembers, hey, maybe the Y wants to be a part of this as well. And I appreciate that tremendously, because it's so easy for municipalities to not really write off, but to not remember to include every agency or organization that they have within their community. Yeah. So he's been a huge supporter of the Y, and we're very grateful for all the support that he's given us over the years as well.
Yeah, him and a shout out to Mary as well, because Mary Kruptovich, she's great down there. I mean, she's at all the events. She's selfless. It's incredible.
Yeah, anything that we need from the Y, Mary's always willing to help us out, and vice versa. If Mary needs something, we're always willing to try and help her out as well. And talk about somebody that has one job, 7 hats. She's taken on a lot, and she does it very, very well. And to your point, she's very selfless and willing to just kind of do what's in the best interest of the community.
Yeah, a lot of good people there. So you were there, you said, for 2.5 years.
Yeah, I started in June of 2022, and
interesting time, right?
Yeah.
That was like we were like kind of tail end of
coming out of COVID, and at that point, most YMCAs were starting to kind of stabilize a little bit. It was an interesting time for sure, and I was there, like I said, for the 2 years, and honestly, the state of the Y when I started at that particular branch wasn't the best, but the staff that we have that really kind of stuck it out and roughed it out with me, man, I couldn't be more appreciative. And going back to the board as well, when I talk about, roughing it out, I mean, the board was really open to a lot of ideas and a lot of changes that we wanted to implement. And without their support, we wouldn't have been able to do half of the stuff, or even, 2/3 of the stuff that we wanted to get done. It's just, that was probably one of the most influential times in my career. And man, it's just looking back on it, it was just very appreciative that we were able to have the success that we had there. The Pittston Y, if you think back on it, I mean, they were always a focal point in the downtown community, but there was always something, there was always something that was hanging over them, or there was always some struggle. And I think the hardest part with reestablishing the Y there was really kind of regaining the trust of the community. You had the unfortunate incident that occurred in 2014. You had dwindling membership, you had panic, and then, COVID sets in. It really puts the Y in a real struggling position. And thankfully, the Wilkes-Barre Y was open to a merger with them and essentially save them from a financial standpoint, because it was able to alleviate some of the financial burdens that they had going on at that time. But then, going back to my time there, just reestablishing the trust of the community with our programming, and really kind of creating something that was consistent and reliable, and just being there for the community. Because a lot of times having conversation with members, they just felt like we're there, and that was enough. And it wasn't. You can't operate that way. Yeah. So as I say, I appreciate the staff and the board there. I also appreciate the community that trusted us to kind of rebrand ourselves and rebuild ourselves to provide them what they deserve. So
eventually you end up getting offered this COO role, right? Now it's got to be, for you, is that a little surreal? Because, you think back to your journey, you're going through what you're going through, like you got into, like, it's interesting because to hear your story, you didn't really know where you were going to go or what you were going to do. And then you kind of stapled yourself to something and you stuck with it, and you just kind of grew within that role. But oftentimes, like, if you go back to when you were younger and you say, hey, do you think you're going to make to a chief level, right? C-suite level? Like, sometimes people are like, I don't know. I have no idea, right? Like, that'd be neat. That'd be cool, right? But it's just something that it's a vision. Like, is that something that you had in your targets? Did you want that?
Once I got into the YMCA system and started seeing how the Y works, yeah, that became an ultimate career goal. But I mean, if you ask 17-year-old Jeremy, hey, do you want to be a C-suite employee at some point? I'll be like, I don't even know what that means.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, this did become a career goal of mine, after some time of being involved in the Y. But yeah, it is a little surreal because this wasn't a planned career path.
Yeah.
This is just something that kind of, naturally happened. It really kind of came about because I didn't say no. Like when Terry asked me about providing a tour to the YMCA because they were bringing a group of 7th graders in, if I said, nah, I don't want to do that, I don't know where I'd be.
Yeah.
That's what really kind of kicked open the door of opportunity.
Pretty neat.
It is. And, it really kind of goes down to thinking about, you're always presented in life some opportunity, and you're presented 2 paths, and whatever path you go is what's going to dictate your future, obviously. Right. And it was just, the right time, right place. And, kind of just saying, what the heck, I've already done this. Let's try something new. And here I am. Yeah.
Yeah. I always like, somebody was talking about, life's journeys and, the sort of algorithm of your life that takes place. And this is why when you're younger, it's so important to expose yourself to as many different things as possible and be involved. Because it's interesting that somebody will say, oh, that person is so lucky, right? Oh, they're so lucky. But it's interesting because luck does play a role in some capacity. But I loved what I heard one time where it was the only thing that I was lucky about was to be at the right place at the right time. The rest of it was on me. It was all of the development that I had and throughout my entire youth, throughout all the people that I was involved with. And it led me to being in the right place at the right time where I was consciously aware of the opportunity when it hit me, right? Versus somebody else who stayed isolated, didn't network, didn't seek out experiences. They would have never seen the same opportunity I did and wouldn't have taken that decision or that wouldn't have made the choice to do whatever that was, at which point led to the pivotal moment to the rest of their career. And I just find that fascinating.
Well, it's the truth, though. I mean, if you don't put yourself out there and you keep yourself within your own box, how are you ever going to grow and expand?
Exactly.
You're not. And to the point that you made that, that individual had said, they were just lucky to be in the right place at the right time. Yeah, that's a big part of it. But, when I got hired by the Y initially, they knew nothing about me.
Right.
They hired me as an aquatics director. I had no aquatics background. My only aquatics background is I grew up at the beach.
Yeah, right, right.
Never taught swim lessons. I was a brief lifeguard. I wasn't necessarily qualified for the position, but they asked me if I wanted it. I said, sure, I'll figure it out. And at that point, that's where you really kind of bet in yourself and say, all right, these people are going to take this chance. You better show up and do the best that you can do with it and ask questions. And that's really what it comes down to. You got to be able to
challenge yourself, right?
Right. And I think for me, growing up in an athletic household, in a very competitive household, that competition aspect is what really drives me through my career. Like I don't ever want to do something where I'm not going to attempt to be the best at it. And that may sound arrogant and that may sound cocky, but
no.
If you're not striving to be the best at what you're doing, then, mediocrity is what you're going to attain. And there's, some people that are okay being middle of the road and doing all that. That's not me.
That's okay. Yeah.
That's not me. I want to be able to figure out how to do something to the best of my abilities. And then not only that, do it to the best of my abilities and then grow the team alongside with me so that we're all growing and doing it to the best of our abilities. Doing it, one person leading the way is okay, but you have 7 people that can all do it together. I mean, you're going to be unstoppable. And I think that's really what we're trying to attain here with the Y, is just continually kind of grow from within and kind of keep the ship moving along with, several captains on standby, if that makes sense.
It does. And when you said the arrogant part, I think it's, I have a strong opinion about that. And my opinion about that is that arrogance is solely in the eye of the beholder. Because what I really mean by that is that I think oftentimes if it's the person who's perceiving it as arrogance, more than likely it means that they're in a position of insecurity, where they're self-judging, they feel offended by something, by somebody else's assertiveness, by somebody else's confidence, amongst equal peers, amongst somebody who also carries confidence. They don't look at it as arrogance. They look at it as confidence as well, and they'll tip their hat to you on it. They'll agree with it, and that's a deeper thought. But I bring that up because it's another thing that fascinates me to the point to where I think all too many times that's what causes us to suppress our confidence, because we're afraid that somebody else will judge us as being arrogant. And I had to overcome that in my own career. I had to get to a point where I'm okay with saying, this is what I'm good at. This is where I'm the expert in this space. I'm okay, right? And if you don't agree, or if you feel that that's arrogance or whatever, we probably shouldn't be in the conversation.
Sure, yeah.
But
it's a great viewpoint,
I've just come to appreciate it. I understand where I'm at, and it helps me sort of filter who I'm in the conversation with. And for those who appreciate it, right, it propels me in my career, and that's who I need to be surrounded with.
Sure. I mean, I think in any career, you got to take a little bit of a risk, right? You got to put yourself out there, be a little vulnerable on it, and see what happens. But you also have to exude confidence in what you're trying to gain on it.
Yeah. In leadership, the idea is that you're at the front of the pack, right? So there is no rule book. There is no right. It's
there are no bad days. Let's put it that way.
Well, you're forging the path, right?
Yeah.
You're the one who's leaving. You're in the role to leave legacy. You're in the role to teach others. So it's this idea that if you don't have the confidence, if you don't have the competitiveness to you, everybody underneath you will just that's the culture you'll curate, is this sort of complacent culture.
Yeah.
This lax, and I don't know. Maybe you could thrive on that. I don't know.
It doesn't last long.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's not sustainable long term, man.
Yeah. So and I think in particularly in your space, I mean, being competitive and getting into that leadership role. I mean, obviously, the powers that be saw the talent in you and knew that you were very passionate about what you were doing. I always like to ask the question that once somebody does get into that role, right, and then you get accustomed. Because how long have you been in the role now?
1 month.
1 month. Wow. Has enough time passed by for you to realize that what's your impact, right? What do you want to be able to accomplish in that role?
I don't think enough time has passed just yet. But
Okay.
I know for myself, I think the success that we attained in Pittston is something that I want to kind of replicate across all the branches. Now, obviously, the pathways that we take are going to be significantly different communities, different demographics,
Sure,
different operational styles. I think for me, though, being able to kind of root ourselves as the main go-to for childcare, to go there for health and wellness, to go there for socialization, those are the key elements that we really have to kind of build for ourselves and kind of get back into the community so they understand this is what we're here for. We're also very lucky that 3 of our sites are downtown locations. So we have the ability to kind of put ourselves out there as the premier location for what you're looking for. The downtown Pittston site is right on Main Street. Even though we don't have, the operable doors on Main Street, you have to enter through the backside. We're still a downtown fixture.
Sure.
Wilkes-Barre, we're still a downtown fixture. We're a parking lot away from the square. Hazelton, that community didn't recognize that they needed a downtown site until it was boarded up and closed. And now we're reopening that site and becoming a downtown fixture again, with people constantly asking, hey, when are you guys opening up for, the pool? Or when are you opening up for the wellness center? When are you opening up for me to just come in and shoot around? Yeah, all of that is really kind of buzzing around in those communities. And the goal is for us to kind of keep that momentum and really root ourselves as, if you need to go somewhere, you're going to go to the Y. I think that's really the main goal there. Just sustaining ourselves as the top location for what you need. That was long-winded and probably went on too long on it, but yeah, man, that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and it's about how you want to impact it too, right? Because we all have our goals, our missions, obviously your interests are in line with the organizations, or you wouldn't have ended up where you are. But, it's about what you want to accomplish too.
Sure. And too, obviously we want to grow membership. We want to have higher program participation. We want, to have fully enrolled childcare classrooms. We want the pool to be full and have swim lessons, all of that. But I think the bigger thing is going back to what I touched on earlier, which is how are we positively impacting the community? And if we can do that on a regular basis, then that's the ultimate goal. Again, healthy living, social responsibility, youth development. If we're checking those boxes and really kind of putting that impact into the community, then, we're doing the right thing. And I think that's what it really comes down to, is can we continually positively impact the community at every capacity that they're looking for?
Now, you guys, you do fundraising events, right? And then before recording, we were talking, and you mentioned a memorial run event that takes place every year, Bernie's Run. Tell me a little bit about that.
So Bernie's Run is a memorial run for Bernie Hargadon, who was the former executive director of the Wilkes-Barre YMCA. He unfortunately passed away in 1994. We had his 30th memorial last year. The run itself has been going on longer than that. But we have the run every year on the 4th of July. It takes place right in downtown Wilkes-Barre. It's a great event. We have roughly 800 runners that come out and participate. The 3 mile run takes place at 8:30 in the morning, and then we have a free 1 mile run walk for kids that takes place at 9:30. And it's just a really great community event. It's something that's been going on for decades now. And if you really want to see community support, this is one of those events that is really inspiring. and really awesome to see. And all the funds that go towards this event go back into our wellness services as well. So it's a twofold thing. Come out, run, participate, and then again, we're going to take those dollars and invest them back into our wellness department and our wellness programs.
I remember Bernie.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, because I was a kid. I was there during that time. I was in summer camp. So I remember seeing Bernie when I came back. I'm trying to remember, there was a woman's name, and I feel bad. There was a woman who was there for a long time. Her name was Nikki. Does that name ring a bell to you by any way?
It doesn't to me, but I'm sure if we asked Jim, he would know.
Oh, Jim would definitely know, for sure. Yeah, there was Nikki, and then there was another woman, and I feel terrible that I'm drawing a blank, but these were really, really great people. Also, there was a woman, her name was Laura. She used to run, she used to run the gymnastics program.
Okay.
She was really great. She was a camp counselor and a gymnastics coach there. And Lori, unfortunately, suffered a tragic accident. She had been in Florida, and she went to jump in for scuba diving, and she unfortunately drowned.
Oh, jeez.
And I remember that was like tragic for our whole, like for everybody who was in the summer camp group, because as we learned about that as adults, we were like, oh my God, like. Mm-hmm. But that just goes to show you the sense of community that the Y curated for us. And so, I'm sort of forever indebted to the Y for that, because there are good people in my life and memories I will just hopefully hold on to forever, that really played a big part of me being a kid. And I love the program for that reason. So I'm glad to see that things are still moving, that it's still serving the community the way it is, that programs are continuing to run. And it's clearly got some good people behind it, and I think that's great. So I wish you all the best of luck with your ongoing career there. Is there anything else that we didn't talk about that you wanted to make sure we cover before we head out?
Just one thing I just wanted to make mention. I know we've talked about the Hazleton YMCA quite a bit. We are getting to the end of our second phase with the revitalization of that facility. So for those that didn't know, that YMCA had closed down in 2014, 2015 and stayed vacant for almost 10 years. It needed a complete overhaul of that facility, and that's kind of where we saw an opportunity to reopen that Y. But we're in a full construction phase right now, and we're hoping to have that facility fully operational and opened as a functioning program site by the fall of 2026. We're entering phase two of 3 in our construction project there. After phase 2, we'll have our wellness center situated, and we'll have some program space situated. But by the end of phase 3, which again is going to be in the fall of 2026, will be a fully operational site with a swimming pool, wellness center, childcare. That's great. All of that. It's a really awesome experience to be a part of, a really awesome project to be a part of. And just seeing the outpour of support from the community before we're even fully operational. Like I said, we're only operating as a childcare site there right now. Just people daily knocking on the doors to find out when they're going to be open as a full site is really remarkable. And again, going back to being able to positively impact the community, that's something that's really awesome. And we're excited about that project and its completion. Yeah, well, congratulations to you guys, because that's very exciting. I'm sure the Hazleton community is very excited. So that's really great. Is there any sort of fundraising that's needed for that, or how does that work? So with the Hazleton site, we have a pretty large capital project going on there. Fortunately, we've been able to access funds through various organizations and various funding sources and some donors. So as far as dollars needed, the short answer is Y always needs dollars, yes. But for that construction project, we have funding sources secured, and it doesn't seem like we're going to have too many hiccups moving forward. That's great. Yep. Well, that's great news. Well, Jeremy, this has really been I really enjoyed this, and it was cool too, because like I said, it kind of took me back to being a kid and thinking about the Y, and gave me a reason to kind of be in that headspace for a little bit. So.
But I really enjoyed your story. And
well, thank you for allowing me to tell it.
Oh, absolutely.
This has been awesome. It's been a really good time here.
Yeah, I didn't get to ask you, what did your inevitably, what did your dad end up saying when he found out that you got a COO role? Because he sent you on the path.
I think initially he gave me a little rib jab and said, "Told you needed to go."
I love it.
But no, it was probably one of the coolest moments when I told him I got the position, where he said, "Good, I'm proud of you.
You earned it."
Yeah,
that's
and
cool.
That
Mom and dad both proud.
Yeah, and you know what? I appreciated it so much more hearing him say that, because I grew up working in his shop. You know, the long hours with him, the mistakes I make don't end at the end of the workday. They carry home on the car ride, at the dinner table the next morning, all of that. But hearing him say that he was proud of me was probably one of the coolest things that I could have had him say. And quite frankly, I wouldn't have been able to do it without his guidance and leadership throughout the years, especially growing up, you know, working alongside of him and seeing the sacrifices he made to provide for our family. So, not to get all sentimental, but yeah, that was by far probably one of the coolest moments and proudest moments for myself, you know, hearing that from him.
I think vulnerability is the key to somebody who is in a leadership role, because it builds character and it allows you to, I think being emotional and sentimental is human, and we can't ignore that. And I think that's always a big part of self-development. And I think it's a positive, I think it's a really good characteristic for you to have. So should never disclaimer that.
All right. Fair enough.
Yeah. I think your parents did an awesome job. They should be very proud. And I think that the Wyoming Valley area YMCA got a good guy here, and I'll be excited. Yeah, man. And I'll be excited to see what you do with your career and in this specific role. I know it's fresh, so I'll be
still very fresh.
Yeah, but it's you're here, right? We're talking about it, and I'm excited to be a part of the early part of the journey here for you, because as you transition into this and really get dig your feet into the sand. As a shore guy, it'll be interesting to see how you continue to go through the ranks and through your career there, and changes that you can implement and things that you can continue to serve with respect to your own interests as well as the organization's. So, shout out to Jim. Big hello to him, and I hope I could see him at some point. I'll have to swing in and bring him a shirt. I'll have to bring, even though he couldn't be here, I'll have to bring him a shirt and have a catch up with him. But before we head out, we're going to do a little giveaway. We're going to do a 1 month membership so they can use all the facilities, right?
One membership with our association will get you access to all of our sites. So that's Pittston, that's Wilkes-Barre, that's Hazleton once we become a program site, and that's the Freeland YMCA as well.
Wonderful. So that'll be neat. If you just want to have a full month experience of going and experiencing the Y, and look, capitalize on that time, right? Because if you win that, then go there, talk with the people. If you've listened through this whole episode, you will have heard that if you have questions, you want to explore opportunities, you want to figure out what type of programming is available, take advantage of that time and go do that. Might just be the first month to an entire change in your life. So that's exciting. Maybe this podcast right here and the winning of a single free month might change somebody's life for the better. That's cool. For our new listeners, the way that this works is you have to go to the Gettin to Know the 570 Facebook page, and upon the post, when you see this, you'll have to like, you'll have to share, and you'll have to comment. You'll have to comment something, keyword. Usually Brian has some kind of keyword queued up when he's here. I think we'll just run with this. I think our keyword's going to be Jersey Boy. And if you don't know what that means, shame on you. You didn't listen. You just skipped right to the end here. Go back, listen. It's a fun story, great story, inspiring story. like, share, comment Jersey Boy. And within about 2 weeks or so after the episode airs, we'll do a randomized drawing. And then we'll put you in touch with Jeremy. You guys can sort that through. We don't have any gift cards or memberships here at the studio. We'll just put you guys in touch. They'll know who the winner was, and then you guys can coordinate that. And hey, once you get your membership and you go down, you have an experience, take some photos, share it with us. Tell us about your experience at the Y. If you're listening to this and you have been a member or have participated in events at the Y, share that, right? Go into comments. That's how you support your community. That's how you support your community organizations. Your words matter. Other people want to hear about that. We all maybe have an understanding, a sort of elementary understanding of what the Y is. This episode shined a lot of light on a lot of different things, but maybe you went to camp. Maybe you, when you were a kid, maybe your kids go to camp now. Maybe you participate in some of the senior programs. Whatever it is, share that. Go in the comments. Leave that there. Tell other people about it. That's how we continue the ball moving, and that's the whole purpose of this podcast. So, good luck to everybody. Jeremy, thanks again for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. To all of our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Do whatever you want to do, but most importantly, you just keep tuning in because that's why we keep doing this. We'll catch you on the next episode.
Thanks for listening and supporting the 570. If you like this episode, please leave a review and make sure to check out all the past episodes. If you or someone you know is interested in being a guest, message us on Facebook or email podcast@conversionworks.com.